Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to another episode of the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Now, I recently caught the Planet Earth Series 2 over here in the UK, and I was completely blown away by the quality of the footage and just how much that camera technology has improved in the last 10 years. The cameras really zoom right into the heart of the action. But what really struck me is that these 6 episodes take much longer to film than most people watching realise. The Planet Earth 2 producers spent an incredible 3 years in 40 different countries, over 117 filming trips and a total of 2,089 shooting days, all creating this jaw-dropping look at our planet. But I wanted to find out more about these significant advances in filming technology and how they're enhancing our understanding of the natural world. Not to mention what it's like working with the inspirational David Attenborough. So before Planet Earth 2 premieres Saturday, February the 18th on BBC America, I invited Mike Gunton onto the show. And he's famous for working with BBC Worldwide as the BBC's creative director of Factual and the Natural History Unit. Some of Mike's recent successful projects include Shark in 2015, The Giant Dinosaur in 2016, and an upcoming project titled Dynasty as well. I mean, outside of television, Mike has also directed the Emmy Award-winning film One Life, and has also worked very, very closely alongside David Attenborough. But enough of my excited ramblings, because I am incredibly excited, because these are shows I grew up with, as a child, and to see them grow and the technology grow and how we view the world evolve is just fascinating. So no matter where you're listening in the world, I'm going to request that you let me beam your ears all the way to New York City to speak with Mike Gunton about Planet Earth 2 and the advancement in camera technology. So it's a genuine pleasure to have you on the show today, as I've grown up and been inspired by much of your work. But I'm curious, do you find your work as rewarding as we do watching them?
I certainly find it incredibly rewarding. I can't think of a better job, really. I've been doing this for nearly 30 years, and I wasn't sure I was going to end up in doing wildlife film. I started off thinking I was going to be doing science documentaries or human social documentaries, but I ended up working with David Attenborough on a project called Trials of Life, because I always wanted to work with him. Yeah. And after having spent 3 years doing that, I thought, well, this is crazy. Why would I ever want to do anything else? And it's still as fun and as exciting as it was back then, in the late 80s, early 90s.
Absolutely. I mean, this show is listened to in over 140 different countries, but I'm sure everyone listening to this show would have been blown away by the TV show Planet Earth. I think the first one was 10 years ago and narrated by the famed naturalist Sir David Attenborough over the years. But can you tell the listeners a little behind your role on Planet Earth 2 and the other shows that you've worked on over the years?
Well, it depends. My role changes depending on the project.
Yeah.
But part of my job is to get ideas commissioned and funded and bring teams together and help them make the best shows they possibly can. And also, someone has to kind of remember, sort of keep the vision, keep the sort of flame of the original idea true to what we originally came up with. And that's also part of my job. And also, I like to go to the field myself and experience and contribute in that way. But I think what I've learned and I'm trying not to sound immodest, but I think one of my strengths is being able to look at shows from a lateral perspective and look at the natural history from a slightly different perspective and bring a different type of storytelling to these shows. I mean, I'm not the only one, but I've always looked at natural world through an unusual perspective, and I see animals very much as individuals, and I've always wanted to tell those stories as animals, as individuals. And I think the team in Planet Earth absolutely have done the same thing. I think one of the strengths of Planet Earth 2 is that sense of individual struggle and proximity to those individuals, and the photographic style we've adopted absolutely suits that approach, because you feel you're with those creatures and you feel that you're sharing, in a way, their trials and tribulations, and you're connecting, which I think is great.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't believe it's been 10 years since the release of the original already. I mean, where does the time go? But I'm curious, how much has technology, and in particular camera technology, changed in this time?
One of the reasons why we felt it was right to do another series, to do a Planet Earth 2, because obviously the original Planet Earth was, cast an enormous shadow. It's such an extraordinary series and has such a legacy, and people sort of think, you must be crazy to do a second one. How can you possibly match that? But we felt that there was, it was legitimate to do it for a number of reasons. One, as you've mentioned, was the technology, but also lots of new stories. And also there was a sense that there was a bit of a groundswell going about the sense of the fragility of the planet was coming kind of sort of more front of mind. But the reason why I think we felt we could tell a different story and a different perspective is exactly that. We felt that with the new technology, we could change the perspective from the original Planet Earth, which was an extraordinary kind of awe-inspiring, almost God's eye view, observed view of the planet, and take the cameras and bring them down in amongst the animals and and see it rather than from a human observation, but actually be with them and get that sense of what their lives are like. And by doing that, we felt that we could tell a complementary story about the planet, which would make Planet Earth 1, it would add to Planet Earth 1, so Planet Earth 1 and 2 together tell a more complete story of the extraordinary places and creatures on the planet.
And it really does. I mean, Planet Earth 2 in particular immerses viewers in the most spectacular habitats on Earth and brings them eye to eye with remarkable animals that all live there. But I'm lucky enough to have seen the series in the UK, but it's just about to be shown on BBC America for any of my American friends listening. And I believe Planet Earth 2 producers spent an incredible 3 years in 40 different countries, 117 different filming trips, and a total of 2,089 shooting days to secure footage for 6 episodes. I mean, just how much technology is utilised to help deliver these incredibly powerful images that blow us all away?
Well, you're right. It's a mixture of hard graft in the field. Yeah. Each of the directors, each of the producers of the episodes, this is all they've done for 4 years. They've worked on one film each, and that's meant that they could absolutely become almost obsessively focused on telling the very, very best story they could about each of these extraordinary habitats. And of course, they all have each habitat, each film has its own mood and personality, which is reflected by the filmmakers who make them. But also, there's different types of technology that are perhaps more appropriately applied to that particular habitat. But all of them have benefited from this sense of getting the cameras close. And I can't, that is the kind of the watchword of the series. See these animals as individuals, see the world through their eyes, and get close so you experience it. Because what's been fascinating, and as you've said, if you've watched it in the UK, the response has been overwhelming, because I think people have felt it feels different, it feels modern, it feels a different take on the natural world. And I think people see reflected in the challenges and the lives of these animals a little bit of their own lives. And that's what I was talking about, this sense of connection that I think, and personality and individuality of these creatures does make them more connectable with.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I think it's fair to say that in the last 10 years, that both technology, filming, and also techniques and our understanding of the planet have evolved dramatically. So I'm curious again, how has that changed your approach to Planet Earth 2?
One way, I think, was that you can't make a series like Planet Earth 2 in the 21st century without acknowledging the hand of mankind. This is a series primarily about Mother Nature, about the planet, about the wild places of the planet, and about the way Mother Nature puts challenges in front of animals. But superimposed on that, there are other challenges, and those are ones that come from the activity of humanity. And it felt important to find a way of weaving that into the series without undermining the kind of the expectation, the brand, the sense of what Planet Earth means to an audience, which is about wonder. It is about being taken to extraordinary places, extraordinary experiences. And I think we've done that. Each episode has one story where it feels like a story about these creatures and the challenges they face, but then there's a little twist. And that twist is that something else has just unbalanced the world, has created an extra challenge. So, for example, in the Islands film, we're talking about, and islands are particularly susceptible to this, talking about the world famous red crab migration. These are land crabs that migrate across Christmas Island and go to the sea every year to breed. And this is massive, millions of them do this. But the twist is that a species of ant has escaped from on board some ship or something, ended up on the island, and has run amok. Yeah. And now those ants attack these ants when they come down to the shore, and that's created significant impact on those crabs, and there's nothing that they can do about it. And the horse is almost bolted. It's so difficult to deal with invasive species, and that's a particular challenge that islands face. So each episode, all these challenges all habitats face, but there seemed more specific, more pertinent to that particular habitat. So islands is about invasive species because those ecosystems are quite fragile in that way. Of course, the jungles film is about deforestation. The mountains film is about climate change, about the retreating snow line. The deserts film has got a sequence about desertification. So each episode, as I say, has this one story which highlights this one particular pertinent challenge beyond that Mother Nature provides.
I mean, I think it was in the first episode as well, where I remember a breathtaking scene between racer snakes and baby iguanas. Now, I don't want to put any spoilers out there, but the scene had me on the edge of my seat, cheering like it was a Hollywood blockbuster movie. In fact, I would say the story was more intense than anything I've seen in the cinema. But from you producing or creating this kind of content, how hard and time-consuming is it to capture a narrative like that?
Again, every sequence has its own story, really. Yeah. But that one is a particularly interesting one because there was an element of luck in that. We went to that location to tell a story about marine iguanas. This is one of these very barren islands in the Galapagos where almost nothing can grow. So it was a story really about what happens when an island is born, if you like. How is it colonized, and how do animals survive in that sort of circumstance? And the story of marine iguanas is an interesting one because they live on the land, but they feed in the sea. So they're able to use the bounty of the sea to survive, but then come onto land and sometimes bring some of those resources with them. And so some of the other creatures can also survive. But they lay their eggs in this soft sand in the middle of the islands, and the babies have to make it to the coast where the adults live, and that's where they will live their lives. And we knew that there was a story that when they do this, they're susceptible to being hunted by hawks and maybe the odd snake. What we hadn't any idea, we had no idea that it wouldn't be one snake, but it would be a Medusa's head of snakes, all waiting in ambush for these creatures. And I think it's one of those slightly strange situations where all sorts of factors conspire to create this moment. And we were lucky to be there. And Liz, of course, said, forget all that. This is what we should concentrate on. And we had 2 cameras as well, and this new technology, this stabilized Movi cameras, which allows us to, like a little steady cam, to run along or fly along beside these creatures while they're behaving and running, so you feel like you're with them. And the combination of that and being able to film both the iguana's perspective and the snake's perspective creates a pressure cooker and a drama that, as you say, I think matches or perhaps supersedes anything that you see in a movie. It's sort of kind of Indiana Jones meets kind of Blade Runner meets, I don't know, just some apocalyptic movie. And as you say, people, I defy anybody to watch that without shouting at the TV screen, "Run, iguana, run!"
That was me. I was that guy on the chair shouting that.
The phrase of the year, "Run, baby iguana, run." I think it's going to be kind of the slogan of the year.
I love it. But when you look back at your involvement on a project such as Planet Earth 2, with thousands of hours invested and miles travelled, what scenes are you most proud of?
It's hard to pick them because I think they all have their challenges, and they're all the realization. All of them, I think, is an extraordinary achievement. Anyway, obviously there are some that have particular drama about them. You've already mentioned the snakes and iguanas. I think some of them also, you can't help personally having favourites for all sorts of reasons. I particularly love the Indri sequence, partly because Indri was one of the first creatures I filmed way back when I started my career. And I tried to get that sense of them flying, leaping through that fluidity and that wonderful athleticism and acrobatic ability as they leap through the forests. by using a handheld camera to get some sense of that. And, it wasn't a bad attempt, but to be able to come full circle and now use this technology, be able to fly alongside them in this extraordinary way now is very proud and excited by that. And also, there are some stories which have been kind of holy grails of wildlife filmmakers for years. And snow leopards, of course, are amazing creatures. David Attenborough says that he's written into his scripts ever since he started, must film snow leopard. And then by the end of the series, the film he's made, crossed out and said, impossible. He's very, I think, proud of that sequence in the show, because we did it in Planet Earth 1. And it was a great sequence, and probably the first time we'd really been able to do it. But we felt that was one story that we could go back to and revisit, because that was unfinished business. And actually, to be able to get the Planet Earth 2 look, which is proximity, being close to a snow leopard, now that is an achievement. But that was only possible using these new remote cameras and an deep understanding of the biology of the snow leopards, and knowing that they have these little marking stations, little rocks where they come to, and they all leave little messages there, little scent marks, which are kind of, people have described them as like you're leaving a sort of status update on your Facebook page, or the scientists actually even call them P-mails, and they each sniff each other's name. But because they all go to the same places, we could also put our cameras there, because we knew a snow leopard would eventually come there. So you leave these remote cameras, and if you position them in the right way, when the snow leopard arrives, it actually triggers the camera, and then they sort of almost film themselves. So there's no human being involved, which of course they would never come close. So you get this remarkable, privileged, almost kind of in the best sense of the word, voyeuristic view of the secrets of this most elusive creature. And I think that's pretty extraordinary, and I'm pretty proud, very, very proud of that. And Justin, who's the producer of that show, I mean, he absolutely dedicated enormous effort to get that and to achieve that.
Oh, what a hell of an achievement, it really is. But again, with the introduction of all this advanced technology, it's got to bring a few challenges as well, isn't it? So what are the most challenging elements of production with this new range of technology that's coming along?
Well, interestingly, I would say the challenges, irrespective of the technology, are still getting to the remote places and, of course, finding the animals. Because you can write anything in a script you like, but animals don't read scripts. And you can turn up and they're not there, or you come the wrong time. So you've got to get the planning right. But also some of the endeavor to get to some of these really remote places, because part of the thing that makes Planet Earth is not just the animals, it is the planet itself. It is the context, it is the beauty of the landscape, it's the habitats. They play a massive part in this. And I think that's what makes Planet Earth stand out. And going to, say, for example, the island of Zavodosky in the Islands show again, it's the final sequence there. And this is a remarkable place. It's effectively a massive volcano that sticks out of the Antarctic Ocean amongst these raging stormy seas. And it's an active volcano, in fact. It's pretty small, but it's home to 1.5 million penguins. And it's the biggest penguin colony in the world. It's almost impossible to get to. Only a handful of people have ever set foot there. It's never really been filmed. I mean, of course, David Attenborough, when you turned that, said, "Oh, actually, I have been there," but he cheated because he went by helicopter from one of the polar research vessels, patrol vessels, when the Navy used to have one, and he was only on there for an hour or so. But to go there properly is one of the hardest things you could possibly imagine. And it took Liz, the producer, a year to plan that and to get the logistics right, and the permissions, and put the right team together, a crew that could both get on and off the island, could film had the right skills to film when we were there, and also had the ability to be self-sufficient, because it's a Robinson Crusoe job. Once you're on that island, it's a little tiny sailboat goes down there, drops you off by inflatable, by Zodiac. You get on the island and you're stuck. Wow. If anything goes wrong, there's no rescue. You're a long, long, long way from anybody to help you. And I think that was very, very brave and enterprising, but it was worth it because the potential prize was was just wonderful, because this is an amazing place where these, it almost feels like a hell on earth for a human being. It's sulfurous smells, freezing cold, horrendous weather. But if you're a penguin, you're safe from predators on that island, and you have this bountiful sea around you. The challenge for them is getting on and off the island, as it was for us, and that's carnage. And it was quite, it was very sobering to see the challenges they go through. But for them, it must be worth it. They wouldn't do it if it wasn't.
Now, you said it was quite sobering there, which brings me to my next point, because I believe that spending time with people that have a different philosophy to life to yourself and challenge your worldview is incredibly valuable. But when you're spending thousands of hours with animals, does that change your opinion of them as well?
I think that's one of the things that was going back to what I said at the beginning about seeing animals as individuals.
Yeah.
I think if you do spend time watching animals, being with them, you start to realize that they do have personality. Many of them have personality. There are stupid ones, and there are clever ones, and there are brave ones, and there are timid ones, and there are ones that are going to be aggressive, and the ones that are going to be submissive. And that has a huge impact on their lives and on what the decisions that they make. Because, it's fascinating to see animals take a fork in the road. Turn left, good. Turn right, that was a bad choice. And that happens a lot. And that's the fascination, because that brings the drama. Because that's, of course, what happens in a human drama. What is that person going to do? Are they going to choose that girl or choose that girl? Are they going to walk down that street or not? And I think it's the same choices are happening in the heads and the minds of animals, and being able to reveal that or reflect that in the shows, I think, helps understand those creatures. It brings revelation, but it also brings connection and reflects our lives, their lives, and our lives. And I think that makes people care more about the animals, both in terms of caring what's the story, but also caring about them as creatures that should share the planet with us.
Yeah, it really does. We have concentrated heavily on the advancements in technology, but despite all that, I still think it's David Attenborough's voice that brings the show to life. I mean, how inspirational is it working with this passionate storyteller of the natural world?
No, you're absolutely right that David's voice, I can't imagine trying to make Planet Earth 2 without David's voice, without David telling those stories. And, I've worked with him for a long time. It is about 30 years now. And, I can't help but have his voice in my head. I'm thinking about a sequence or about how we might unfold the story. And of course, he is the master of the turn of phrase and timing. But also, I think what we were talking about earlier, about some of those slightly more thought-provoking moments, has the lightness of touch, so that the power of what he's saying does not have to be rammed down your throat. It doesn't have to be explicit. It's there, and people feel it and see it and experience it and connect with it, and I think are inspired by it in a way that perhaps a more aggressively formulated view might not be so effective. I mean, there are people who will disagree. There are people who will say, I'm sure, that a series like Planet Earth 2 should take the opportunity to be more overt about the challenges of anthropogenic change and anthropogenic challenges that animals face. But I think that's not the job of Planet Earth 2. I think Planet Earth 2's job is to inspire and wonder and reveal and get people to care about creatures. And I think he does that in an unparalleled way. And I know he shares that view. He feels that, if you want people to protect and care about, if you want to protect animals, and you've got to care about them. And if you won't care about them if you don't understand them or you don't even know they exist. So I think Planet Earth 2 has a very important job to start that process going.
Absolutely. And am I right in saying Planet Earth 2 premieres on BBC America this weekend? Is that right?
Yes, it's Saturday the 18th on BBC America, and it's 9 Eastern, 8 Central.
Now, I always say at the end of this show that technology works best when it brings people together. But what you're helping do now is not just bring people together, but it's bringing the entire planet together and give us a better understanding, whether that be humans or animals or everybody that resides on this little planet of ours.
It does seem to have brought people, you mentioned about bringing people together, it does seem to have brought people together in a way that television hasn't done very much. It's kind of bucking the trend in that people think about television as being something that people, watching screens on their own and maybe watching it in catch up. But something about Planet Earth 2 in the UK, and I'm hoping it's going to happen here in the US and around the world, is that people come together, families come together to watch it. Even groups of people gather in a pub or in a clubhouse or in friends' houses and watch it together because they want to share the experience and they want to talk about it. And I think that's really so exciting and so rewarding, because that amplification of the pleasure people get from the series, and hopefully the thought-provoking nature of some of the sequences, that's really powerful.
So a huge thank you for coming on and opening our eyes to that process that goes on in filming these shows that we all love and the technology behind them. So thanks again, Mike.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
So anyone that has not seen Planet Earth 2, I strongly urge you to check it out. And for my American friends, like we said there, don't forget it premieres Saturday, February the 18th on BBC America. And for me personally, it's quite apparent that advances in camera technology give the series a completely new engaging experience by allowing the viewers to see this world that we're all living from the animals' perspective. And that is just a phenomenal thing to achieve. I really think it is. If you've seen the series, please let me know what your favourite bits were. You can tweet me at Neil C. Hughes. You can get me on email at techblogwriter@outlook.com. But I'd love to hear what your favourite bits are, if you're really looking forward to it, and any comments on this show at all. I've genuinely loved every minute of this show, but all good things must come to an end. So it's time for me to go, I'm afraid. And I will leave you now and say, until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.